Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another Salon Series lecture. And I'm very excited to say that this is the kickoff of something that we've been working on for quite a while, which is a new exhibition that's going to open May 24th, maybe 25th to the public, called Future Now. And here's the book. And you might notice the cover. The sneakers on the cover were made in a very interesting way by our guest, Jeff Staple. And before I invite him on, I just want to give you a little bit of background. Jeff is a creative visionary whose work encompasses graphic, fashion, and of course for us, most importantly, footwear design, as well as brand marketing. He's the founder of Reed Art Department, Staple Design, where he has worked on countless creative projects with clients ranging from startup brands to Fortune 100 companies. And 2022 marks the 25th anniversary since Jeff founded Staple in 1997. Was the New York-based pioneering streetwear brand with the now famous, in fact infamous, Pigeon logo, and later the experimental lifestyle boutique Reit Space, which he founded in 2002. Today, Jeff continues to traverse new territory as the creator and host of the Coinbase podcast, Due Process, which is the spiritual heir of his renowned Business of Hype podcast on Hypebeast. He shares professional advice as one of the top teachers on Skillshare, which is a leading online learning platform. And he is a pioneer in the Web3 space, can't wait to talk to him about this, as the founder of Stapleverse, a new digital world based on everything he has learned in the past quarter century as a cultural leader. In addition to his work as a creative, he is a trusted voice in the business world, where he's a frequent moderator, lecturer, keynote speaker at industry panels and conferences, and he continues to expand his positive social contagion worldwide, going on now for over 2 decades and counting. Make sure to keep up with him on his website, Instagram, and Twitter, which we'll connect you to at the end. So without further ado, Jeff. Hey.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, this is sort of the kickoff leading up to the opening of Future Now and the launch of the book. And I have a lovely interview with you in that book. And you were so kind to let us use your Meta Pigeons on the cover.
I'm honored. I'm super honored.
And so
show that cover one more time. Show that beautiful cover once again. It's
okay.
So beautiful. It's a true honor that it made the cover, because there's so many great projects out there. But I think it's cool because a couple of decades ago, we sort of made history with a physical shoe with the Nike Pigeon Dunk, and it's great that like in this new universe, we're able to still remain somewhat relevant. So it's great.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to have the first Salon series connected to Future Now to be with you, because I think that you are the absolutely perfect person to be talking about those two different spaces, how they're kind of both growing closer and closer, somewhat becoming confused even, but where I can't wait to pick your brain about where the opportunities lie in the metaverse. But before we get to the questions, because I got lots of them, you're going to give a little PowerPoint. And so
yeah. I thought I put together some, together some slides just in case people are tuning in that have never heard of this person on the other line before. So like, we'll give you a little refresher here. Elizabeth did a great job at sort of like a lot of it. Let's see here if I can control this. So this is me. She mentioned the Pigeon logo as sort of something that we're infamously known for. Let's see if I can control the slides right now. So I was going to give you a little bit of background on my career and where it all started before the Pigeon. But let's see. So I still can't control Gus. I might need your help. There we go. Okay, cool. So I'll just say next, and then if you can advance the slides, that'd be great. It worked in the rehearsal, I swear. So everything started for me in the silkscreen lab. This is in 1997. I was attending Parsons School of Design, and I really just wanted to get my artwork on t-shirts. the teacher did not like me printing on shirts. They wanted me to print on paper. So what I ended up doing with a friend was breaking into the silkscreen lab at night at Parsons. We would leave the window unlocked. I would throw in a pillowcase full of t-shirts, and we would just be renegade printing all night long. And that's really where the first designs came from. And then, the whole purpose of that was to really just give t-shirts to my friends to wear. I just love the idea that like a t-shirt was a really powerful medium as a delivery device for artwork versus like a silk screen on a wall that just sits in your tiny New York apartment that no one gets to see. So the t-shirt was my medium of choice. And it really took off. People really loved it. People loved wearing them. And then one day on March 7th, 1975, I'll never forget, 1997, I'm sorry. March 7th, 1975 is my birthday. March 7th, 1997 was the first day that a store in New York City placed a 12 shirt order off of my back. They saw the shirt that I was wearing, and the manager said, "I like that shirt. Where'd you get it from?" And I said, "I made it myself." And he put in a 12 shirt order. And on my birthday, Staple as a business was born, which is pretty neat. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see, it started as a t-shirt brand, did a lot of like sort of high concept shirts. And to be honest, this was before there was even a term called streetwear. Like streetwear was not yet a term yet. In the mid 90s, you had hip hop clothing, you had skate clothing, and then you had like punk fashion. But there wasn't something that sort of amalgamated all of them together, except for like a band of maybe like 10 brands that were around doing this kind of like undefinable work. If you go to the next page, you'll see some more stuff. But yeah, so it was cool to just be pioneering.
That is hilarious. Reality-based t-shirt.
Reality-based t-shirt is awesome. And then I don't know if people know the Get Smart reference with the shoe, but that's the old detective show, Maxwell Smart, and he's holding an Air Max 95 instead. So that kind of like, this is definitely like, this feels like a dad joke at this point now. It's so old. But yeah, just doing some fun graphics. And then what eventually happened was the stores would be like, "Hey, your t-shirts are great. Did you ever think about making like a sweater or a tank top or a pair of shorts or a hat?" And that's really what pushed me into advancing the line into like cut and sew and more of a collection. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is a shout out to my Canadian friends watching, but like we started just doing like, riffs on sportswear and stuff like that. This is a great, one of my favorite pieces. And then if you go to the next page, we even do like unisex clothing where like we started doing like tank tops and swimwear and stuff. And then if you go to the next page, you'll see like full head to toe collection of like headwear, tops, bottoms and everything. So now we have a full collection. It's grown tremendously. We're distributed worldwide. So it's pretty cool that all started from just me breaking into art school, silk screening t-shirts. And then what happened was, as I was sort of developing this clothing line, it was getting more and more popular. I had at that point crossed paths with some people at Nike. And, I grew up as a sneakerhead all my life, and working with Nike or being able to visit Beaverton, Oregon was always like my childhood dream. Like I would have preferred going to Beaverton than to like Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom. It was like my Wizard of Oz, And so it's amazing because Nike took notice that, I was a designer. I had this like cool little streetwear brand that was making some noise in downtown New York City. I had a cool community, and I was like a true sneakerhead. Like I really knew my sneaker knowledge. And so that's when we started on a relationship with Nike, where I started to create a lot of different projects and products, both internal projects that, were not really public facing, as well as other collaborations, such as the navigation pack, the Nordic pack, the Laser Rift, Laser Cortez, Nike Considered, all of these things that we worked on together. But the one project that was really monumental was the one on the next slide, of course, which is the Nike Pigeon Dunk, which the concept here was the simple brief that Nike SB gave me, which was like, they said, "We just want you to do a shoe that's dedicated to New York City. What ideas do you have?" And that was it. And at the time, I was developing this mascot of a pigeon for my clothing line. And I thought, what better way could you possibly unleash this new mascot, but on the heel of a Nike Dunk to celebrate New York City, you know? So it was really like fortuitous, and there was this really great opportunity. But I always say, you know, opportunity knocks, but he didn't call before he came. You know, so you have to really be able to like look at opportunity and be able to answer that door when they come. And so we did this, and it just you know, it's a great shoe. If you look at it just from a straight product standpoint, I love the shoe. I love the wearability of it. I love the storytelling of it. What happened afterwards in terms of the release and what people think of the shoe was not within my purview. I could not program all of that to happen. All I could do was build a shoe that I was proud of. And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see a newscast from that evening on CBS News. And I think you'll have to hit the play button on this one.
There's a footwear frenzy going on in the city right now. A special sneaker made just for New York is in such high demand, people are fighting to own a pair of these things. CBS 2's Michael Pomerantz shows us how Nike's Pigeon Dunk had feathers flying.
This home video shows the scene outside the Reit Space store on the Lower East Side yesterday when nearly 100 self-proclaimed sneakerheads got into a shoving match as they waited for the doors to open and the chance to buy one of only 20 pairs of Pigeons. Limited edition, of course.
Kids were piled up against the fence like it was a soccer game, and I was just like, I can't believe this. Like, I was actually fearful at times for, you know, the safety of the people here, you know, the staff, myself. I was just, you know, it was scary at sometimes.
No one was hurt, and these pictures taken by store workers show their perspective and the crowds when the cops showed up.
They could have at any time shut this whole thing down, and I wouldn't have blamed them at all.
Nike only made 150 pairs of Pigeons, all to be sold in New York City. 20 sold here at $300 a pair by the graphic artist who Nike asked to design a shoe specifically for New Yorkers using a recognizable theme.
We chose the pigeon out of all things just because the bird just doesn't give a crap. You know, like, they'll walk all over you, they'll walk right next to you, they don't fly away, they're not scared, and I think that really personifies New York.
Jeff Ng and his design team have done several shoe projects with Nike over the past few years, even a couple of shoes with New York themes, but none has been more popular than the Nike Pigeon.
I came like 4 hours before, but no chance.
Nike's Pigeon Dunk shoes are made to look just like the bird's signature embroidered heel with gray uppers and reddish soles. They're so hot, they're already on eBay for $200 to $1,000 a pair.
It's just specifically that it's a shoe that represents New York City to the fullest.
Everyone's got their passion and their vice, you know, so for this small subculture, you know, it's sneakers.
The flap was front page news today, and although they're all sold out of the Pigeon sneaker, there is a consolation buy, the Pigeon t-shirt, only $24. It may not carry the same street cred, but there are plenty of them, and at least they haven't flown the coop yet. Michael Pomerantz, CBS 2 News.
I just want
Unmastered.
That's priceless.
And you better watch
It is priceless.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And then if you go to the next page, you'll see the shots of the crowd in front of the store. Pretty crazy. And then the next page has the New York Post headline there. And this really, you know, like what really happened was we put sneaker culture on the map here. You know, February 22nd, 2005. I think before that, sneaker culture was a subculture. It was a niche thing. If you had more than 15, 20 pairs of shoes in your collection, you were a weirdo. You know, and this was the moment where it just broke it open for everyone to understand. And if you heard the guy, newscaster said, these shoes are $1,000 right now, man. Yeah. If you could get that shoe for $1,000, because on the next slide, you'll see actually this is recently Sotheby's just auctioned this off for $25,200 for a pair signed by me. And actually, I just checked last night as I was sort of putting together this PowerPoint, but on the next slide, you'll see the current StockX price to get a pair is now $50,000. So that $300 investment went pretty far. We then followed this up with more Nike Pigeon Dunks, but also other projects as well. So on the next slide, you'll see the black Pigeon Dunk that we released a bit later. And then you'll see another great photo of it from the Nike SB team on the next slide. And then just to give you an idea, so that photo, okay, that I showed before of the huge crowd, the black and white photo, it was chaos. It was complete mayhem because we didn't know how to handle that crowd. We didn't anticipate that it was going to happen. When we dropped this shoe now, we were a little bit more prepared. So we called the proper authorities, we almost needed military grade help. So we did our drop at Extra Butter because as I'll tell you later on, we ended up closing Reit Space eventually, and I became the creative director of Extra Butter, which is another great retail store. So we did the drop there. And on the next slide, if you hit play, you'll see a play-by-play of what it was like to wait in line for that shoe on that day when we dropped it. So as you can see, a much more streamlined, less riotous situation. We had the NYPD already there, well prepared, but you saw the barricade. I mean, the line for that was like the worst day at the airport you've ever seen. Just like it went around the block 2 times, but there was no riot situation, at least, so we learned. And then we did another one. If you go on the next page, we did another pigeon dunk called the Panda Pigeon Dunk, which you can see this is a shot of me releasing it in Shanghai, China. And you could see the amount. That's my hand holding it up to the crowd of people that were waiting to get it. We did another event in Chengdu, China, on the next page, where a couple people came out to try to get this one as well. Pretty crazy with these sneaker releases, but it's almost like a musical tour when you do a release for the sneaker now. So that's kind of some of my history. The other thing that I got into, as Elizabeth mentioned, was my podcasting. I'm really passionate about spreading the knowledge and the culture. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see some scenes of a podcast that I did on Hypebeast called The Business of Hype, where we just interviewed amazing people and just talked to them one-on-one. I highly suggest people listen to it. Just a couple of people here you can see, like Hiroshi Fujiwara, founder of Fragment, Sarah Andelman, founder of Colette, just some incredible people here. A Cold Wall, Samuel Ross, Melody Asani, Yoon from Ambush. You just don't get this type of talent on a show. And also, I think because the interviewee and I are sort of like industry peers, it doesn't feel really like a journalist asking Q&A questions. It's really just 2 people in the industry having an intimate chat, and the whole thing is just recorded for your educational purposes. And then moving along, we also opened Reit Space, as you know, and this goes into a little bit about my retail experience. So here's Reit Space Lower East Side, and then if you just keep advancing the slides, you'll see we opened a chapter in Honolulu, and we opened one in Tokyo. Here's Tokyo, and then we opened Singapore. And then we did one in Hong Kong as well, and then we did a collaboration with PacSun, Pacific Sunwear, which has like 4,000 stores across America. We did Reit Space pop-ups inside of that. Here's our launch with Nike, where we had Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, come and release his Kobe Bryant ones. And then I ended up closing Reit and then became the creative director for Extra Butter. And here's the Extra Butter store, which a lot of people said had very similar DNAs to Reit Space. So you could advance through some of these slides, but really like elevating and just creating a footwear pinnacle experience, all housed in sort of like a movie theater kind of vibe, because that was the inspiration behind Extra Butter. So really proud of this build out in the store. Just really elevating sneaker culture to its highest here. And then I have a creative agency called Reit Art Department, which it was formerly known as Staple Design. When I closed Reit, the store, I decided to adopt the name Reit into our creative agency called Reit Art Department. If you go to the next slide, You'll see some of our capabilities here is branding, design development, collaboration, curation, storytelling, retail strategy, editorial, and then a division that we call MPL, which we call merchandising, production, and logistics, where we help creators sort of kick off their collections and helping them with like merchandising, production, and logistics. So we help them with the stuff that nobody actually wants to do because we're good at it. We are more than happy to do it. And if you look at our next slide, you'll see just a small sampling of just some of the clients that we work with, really like the pinnacle movers and shakers of this culture. We feel like we have a great grasp on that. And just some of the projects that came out of that. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the work that we've done with Metacom and Atmos. We do a lot of design stuff for Cole Haan as well on the next slide. Great partners there. Timberland is another great client that we've worked with in the past and doing a lot of collaborative work. So on the next slide, you'll see the Wu-Tang Timberland that we did with them. We were also the ones that linked up for the first time ever, Timberland and Supreme. So if you look at the next slide, every Timberland Supreme that you came out was courtesy of us. Doc Martens on the next slide. Another really cool project on the next slide is when Andre 3000 was called on to work on a collection with Tree Torn, and Andre said, I need a footwear guru to help me through this. And since then, Andre and I have been really close friends, and it was an honor working with a GOAT in the industry like this. Some other Nikes that we had done before the Pigeon Dunk that I want to just flash you guys real quick. So on the next page, you'll see the ever limited edition and elusive, the NRF Dunk that we did. This dunk is made out of complete basketball leather. So it's for a basketball sort of like underground fight club like basketball league that I started for Nike called the Nike Recess Federation. Very rare, these. Next page, you'll see my original sketches for the navigation pack. The next slide, you'll have the final realized versions of the navigation pack here. And then on the next slide, you'll have this is the Nordic pack that we did. And then again, branching off into other brands. So you'll see the Pumas on the next slide that we did, which, I love doing shoes like this where like, I distinctly remember here where when I presented the idea, Puma said, we can't make the entire back of the shoe pink. Like that's impossible. And I was like, no, I think it's possible. And then like, just, making them do it is really awesome. And then one of my favorite Pumas that we did was the Blaze of Glory, which is on the next page.
Yeah.
And then moving into the current and the future now, we want to talk a little bit about like Metaverse and Web3. So I'll give you a brief journey into that. If you go on the next slide, my first foray into it was with a platform called Zora, which is one of the leaders in NFT marketplace. Their website's rzora.com, Z-O-R-A. I did a physical drop with them. And that was my first test into sort of like linking digital assets and tokens with a drop. And so it was great learning with them. We did this Coca-Cola Nike custom dunk that sold out. Really interesting to learn there. And then from there, we did what's on the cover of Elizabeth's book. I teamed up with Artifact on the next slide to release the Meta Pigeons, which is this really cool shoe that is both a digital asset as well as a physical shoe, which is on display in the Bata Shoe Museum. So that's pretty darn cool as well. The more limited colorway is seen on the next slide, the purple edition. And then what's really cool is like, because these are digital assets, this is one of the most fun parts for me about the NFT world, is that you can go beyond the limitations of the physical space. So if you go on the next slide, you'll see a close-up of the digital shoe, and you could not do this on a physical shoe. There's like actual like pipes coming out of it, and the pigeon is all 3D. Like you could have so much fun with this. So after Artifact, I then teamed up with entrepreneur. He's a legend in the game. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. He has an NFT project called VFriends. So if you go on the next page, I did a collaboration with him where he sort of did his VFriends project, highly successful blue chip NFT project, and we did a collaboration. So my first 3 forays into the NFT space were through collaborations. Zora, Artifact, and Gary V, 3 legendary people to be collaborating with. But then that is what educated me to be able to launch my own platform. Next slide, which is Stapleverse. So Stapleverse is everything that I've learned in the past quarter century, and now I'm able to like put that into my own make-believe universe. So we're in the midst of unveiling Stapleverse right now. It's pretty fun. We released like all these, like on the left side of this slide, you'll see all these like what we call feed items. These are things that like you might find a New York City pigeon eating, you know, like there's like a ladybug and a pretzel and roasted nuts and a used condom and a joint and a cockroach and, you know, just all sorts of feed items. And then what you need to do now is collect these feed items to try to catch a pigeon. So you got to like sort of play this game, you know, and there's the pigeons on the side that you can try to collect. So we sort of made a meta game, really. It's kind of unprecedented what we did. And then recently we did a physical Crocs collaboration. It just actually, it's fresh. We just dropped it 10 days ago. And if you go to the next slide, you can see our Crocs, which is crazy. It is the biggest gibbets that Crocs has ever made in the history of the brand.
It's such a crazy shoe.
I mean, you are the pigeon. Like when you wear these, you
correct.
are the pigeon. Your feet are the pigeon, you know? And what we did do also, which was really exciting, is we brought Crocs into the metaverse, because on the right side there, that is an NFT. And it's an NFT of our pigeon from Stapleverse wearing a pair of those Crocs. And what we did was, after the physical Crocs had completely sold out, we dropped these NFTs, and whoever was able to capture the NFT was guaranteed a pair of physical Crocs from the archive as a utility. So it's kind of cool that we were not only bridging digital and physical, but we were also bringing, you know, a multi-billion-dollar company like Crocs into the metaverse space, which was really awesome. So that's it. That's me in a nutshell. That's my day-to-day, and I'm excited to get to know all of you. And I think we're doing Q&A via chat. So like, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but I know Elizabeth's going to hit me with some questions right now.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. How this is going to go is I'm going to ask some questions, but I promise I won't ask all the questions. And so actually, if you have questions, can you put them in the Q&A function? Because that way I can track them more easily. But that was great. That was an awesome overview. And my first question was going to be, you know, what we were joking about when I interviewed you for the book, what was Jeff like BP before Pigeon? But you've covered that over pretty well. So I'm going to hop to the next thing, which is you are obviously extremely well known for your groundbreaking work, and stepping into the metaverse. Just, do you feel like it's a natural part of your forward-looking trajectory?
Yeah, to me, it's another way of just, it's another world. You know, I know that's a cliche, especially
no, it truly is, and that's what I want to talk to you about that next.
Yeah, but the way I don't really, I think when people think it's like another world, they get a little bit scared and intimidated about the metaverse. There's a lot of people that are you know, confused and scared of the metaverse. To me, like when I say it's a new world, I mean like e-commerce was a new world for me. You know, moving from like physical to e-commerce, and then like even marketing, like moving from, for example, traditional print advertising to social media was a new world too. And I just knew that if me and my brand wanted to stay relevant and adapt, I could not be the guy that is like, I'm only going to advertise on bus stations, and I'm only going to do marketing with postcards. I'm just going to hand out postcards, and that's it. Like, no, I had to adapt. I haven't adapted to everything, admittedly. You know, like I'm not big on TikTok, for example, right? So like I got to choose my battles. You gotta be, yeah.
You gotta go on TikTok.
No, please, no. You know what?
The museums on TikTok. It's amazing.
I'm hoping that Metaverse Web3 like is my leapfrog.
Oh, it's over TikTok.
No, you know what? I have to emphasize this, that I think, you know, we're at the end of the day, we are human beings. We have to sleep 8 hours a day. We're only going to be awake, you know, a certain number of times, an hour, a week, you know, a year. You can only have so much time, and you can't be a master at blogging, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Web3, like podcasting, writing books. You can't do it all. So I do think that you have to pick your battles, and yeah, I might have missed the boat on TikTok, but I'm glad that I've like invested time in the metaverse, so it is just another world for me to expand into. And I'm really happy about that I have, because I'm having a lot of fun, to be honest. That's what's most important.
And so, I think about this a lot. I think that we talked about it too when I was interviewing you. But I think about fashion and world exploration back in the 15th century, 16th century. We're here in Canada. I like to say that Canada was founded on hats, because the reason why people came over to Canada wasn't to find new foodstuffs and save the universe. It was to get beaver fur to make men's hats.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, for better or for worse, Columbus got in a boat, not to find foodstuffs, but to find silks and spices, things that were basically fashion.
Right.
So when I first was contemplating the metaverse, and I began to see that once again, fashion was starting to forge the new future, now in this other frontier.
Yeah.
And so a question that I have, and as I look at thinking about Artifact and even thinking about their Atari drop in Decentraland, is, all of a sudden all these avatars are wearing their Artifact shoes, right? It's like a flex in the metaverse. Do you think that, one, do you have already yourself a metaverse wardrobe? And the metaverse that you're creating, will avatars have an opportunity to wear the clothing that they collect? How is fashion and the metaverse going to be working in Stapleverse?
In Stapleverse, not yet. You can get an Artifact Jeff Staple hoodie on your avatar. Okay.
Yeah.
So that can happen. And in Artifact also does these pods, like they're making homes.
Yeah.
And in your
home, and real estate and
real estate. Yeah. Like, so in your Artifact home, you can have a pair of like Jeff Staple Meta Pigeon shoes in your home if you want, right? So there's that happening. Frankly, I'm still, the verdict is still out for me personally. If I believe all humans are going to be like living their life through this simulation avatar, I don't know if that's really going to be the case. I mean, it's happening. I just don't know if it'll happen on like a really mass scale.
Grand scale. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think really what's interesting with the NFT space is that the artwork is driving people's knowledge of cryptocurrency, right? So it's not, there was a moment like in 2017, 18, 19, where it was all about like how much Bitcoin can you trade and buy with Ethereum and stuff like that. But I think now the NFT artwork is giving people a reason to hold crypto, Ethereum, and Bitcoin to be able to purchase artwork. So
other artwork,
similar to what you said, that the fashion is driving it. I think that NFT art is currently driving a lot of the commerce around like why people get crypto in the first place, right? And so when I do things like I mentioned the Crocs drop that I did, and even the Artifact drop, that was for a lot of people their first ever NFT purchase. So it was the first time, they love my footwear in real life. They want this first NFT version on it. So this was the thing that made them get Ethereum, buy the NFT, and it's like their first project, so that's a lot of fun. But the idea of like, I mean, you and I remember the day and age of the video game called Sim City, like
of course,
this is Sim City, but like,
or Second Life,
that was like 20 years ago when that came out.
I know.
And you're sitting there on a keyboard with your up, down, left, right key running around this world.
Oh no.
It hasn't really changed. You're still running around with your up, down, left, right key and talking to someone through a chat bubble. I don't know if that's going to replace like actually just having dinner with someone in a restaurant. Like
except for VR, right? Which is so much more immersive, and you can meet somebody and sit down to dinner.
But you have to wear those goggles. I hate those goggles.
I know, but the goggles, that's going to go away.
Yes, it'll become contact lenses at one point.
And so I wonder, I wonder when virtual reality, right, will be the new norm. Yeah.
No, and you know, I think the idea of you said like flexing, right? Like I think the idea of flexing digitally is here to stay. That's like you know, if you think about it, if you buy an outfit and a pair of shoes, the number of actual humans that see that in real life is so small. You're actually flexing that on Instagram digitally 99% of the time, right? Yeah. And you know, even when I remember when I had the retail store, I remember kids would like go into the dressing room, try everything on, do a photo shoot in the dressing room and say, yeah, I don't want any of this. But mission accomplished, they already flexed on the gram without having to buy anything, you know? So that's that really was like a mind opener for me. I was like, wow, it's not even about owning the physical goods anymore. It's just about what exists digitally on your device.
Which actually brings me to the next question, which is, so you're working with Artifact to make the Meta Pigeon, but then you also forged real, you know, and this is why I laughed at the t-shirt, reality-based shoes.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Good one. Good one. Yeah.
And so, and I've seen this, you know, a couple times, and you were doing it, you said as well with Crocs, is that there's such an interest in the NFT, but there still maintains that interest in the physical object. And oftentimes that physical object isn't to be worn.
Yeah.
You know, but to be used as an artwork, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you loop back then to the artwork NFT. I mean, it's a very interesting little knot between fashion, the metaverse, and
I'll tell you a funny story, because doing the physical shoe with Artifact was my idea. I said like, hey, I'm sorry, kids, I'm old. I still want to wear shoes, right? So like, I'd like to make a real shoe. And they're like, I remember Chris from Artifact was like, why would you want the physical thing? And I was like, what do you mean, why would I want the physical thing? I want to like rock it. What do you mean? And they're like, okay, I guess. Like they thought I was so old by saying like, I want the physical shoe, you know? And then the irony is that when that project came out with the NFT and then you forge it for the shoe, like I did so many interviews with like New York Times, Footwear News, you know, like all these WWD were like, Jeff, you're such a genius for linking the NFT with the physical shoe. How did you come up with that? And I was like, I wanted to wear the shoe. That's like, what are you talking about? You know? So like, it was dumb genius is I guess what I call it.
Well, the shoes are great. I mean, it was so nice of Artifact to donate some to the Shoe Museum. But they look amazing. I mean, it's the NFT, you're right. Like you can do some interesting things with it, but the real shoe looks amazing. It looks, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm gonna have to open it up to the floor pretty soon. Do you think, so when you are, do you think that you will in your own metaverse, in Stapleverse, will you drop shoes now that you've had the physical shoe, you have it connected to the metaverse and NFTs? Will you dare in Stapleverse just now make virtual shoes? Or are you always going to want to have them tethered to the real thing?
Oh man, I welcome you to ridicule me the day where I say, Elizabeth, we're not doing physical shoes anymore. We're only doing virtual shoes.
Well, and hey, you know, I mean, we're a museum, right? And so I'm trying to figure out what do we collect in terms of NFTs? And I mean, the physical shoe is a lot easier.
Call me like grumpy old man, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, and I'll give you a reason why, because like, so if you look at like music, right? You can download music. It's on, you have 10,000 songs on your phone for free, you know, whatever, like, but the vinyl record market is at the highest it's ever been.
Right.
Okay. I'll give you another example. Automobiles, self-driving electric cars are here, right? But manual transmission, old school BMWs are selling at the highest rate they've ever had. So there's this newfound love for the way that things used to be done. Similar, hey, number one selling watch right now is an Apple iWatch, completely digital watch, right? But look at the sales on old school vintage Rolexes right now, through the roof. So I think what happens is people get into a culture through the technological means, but then like any natural human would do, we dig we dig into the past and we say, why is it like this? What are the roots of this? Oh my God, a manual BMW. Wow. Oh, this self-winding Rolex. Wow. This vinyl record of the Beatles. Like, this is so cool to have, you know? And I think that's going to always perpetually happen. So even if we have full virtual outfits and shoes, I think people are going to still want to be like, where did this Air Force One originally come from? I want to see the original Air Jordan, you know? So I think there's always going to be a need for that. And that's what I'm hoping for. We are currently right now, we're trying to link the Stapleverse by releasing physical shoes, but really connecting it to NFTs in a more streamlined way. And the difficulty in that is that, as you know, shoes still today take 15 to 24 months to make a pair of shoes.
Correct.
NFTs happen in the speed of light, you know? So trying to get those two things to merge where like if you started a shoe design today, it's coming out in 2023, 2024, right? So how do you now merge? I mean, I don't even know what the technology, I mean, the technology in 2024 for NFTs is going to be, I can't even imagine it's going to be, right? But I can guarantee you shoes will probably be like the same. It'll be stuck in custom. Yeah. It'll be on a boat in Long Beach, like waiting to clear customs, you know, like, unfortunately,
Okay, all right. I know there's questions, so I should respect the question askers. Okay, I'm going to go to Q&A. I think chat does have some, so if you put your questions in chat, move it over to Q&A, and that way I'll definitely see them. Okay, so the first question is, what do you think about in-person drops versus online drops?
Great question. I think there's a need for both. I'm a fan of in real life drops because I think sneaker culture is really predicated on the community, right? At the end of the day, sneakers are pieces of leather, suede, and nubuck glued to rubber. They're a commodity item, right? You wear them, you destroy them, you throw them away. That's inherently what a sneaker is. Obviously, you're seeing sneakers become this whole other life force. The reason for that life force is the community. And that community happens on a sneaker line. It happens in a sneaker boutique where a kid is chatting it up with the cashier about what's hot and what's not, you know. It doesn't happen in a Dick's Sporting Goods store. It doesn't happen like online on Sneakers app. You know, it happens when people come together. So that's why I really love in real life. The negative of in real life is that even if you were the most organized, streamlined service, you still have to manually ring people up. So you can only get through, I've actually done this math, you can only really get through like 600 ring ups in a day, like in a business day. Like even if you just sat there like doing this with a credit card, you can only do it like like your arms are gonna fall off, right? So that's where you need an app or a digital interface to be able to service all of the people that are coming in through the virtual door. So I think you need two of those things. I think bots are a big problem in the industry. Like, you know, and no one right now can outsmart the bots. Like even the biggest companies are getting botted right now. And the second they have the solve, the bot writers are making like the sort of counter to that. The next problem, you know. So getting shoes into the hands of the people who actually want them in the first place is a big challenge. And I guarantee you people like StockX and GOAT and eBay don't want that problem solved because they want you to miss out and go to StockX to pay 2x, 3x for it. So it's a really crazy world now. I mean, I think I heard recently, I think there's a stat that like the resale market on Jordans, if the resale market on Jordans was its own sneaker brand, it would be the top 3 sneaker brand in the world. Just the resale value would be a top 3 brand. That's how much that's how much they're making.
And we, you know, when we were talking before for the book, we were talking about the fact that the resale market gives you as the original creator nothing. Like you sold your shoes in 2005 and that was that. And you don't benefit at all from any of the resale hype and price.
No. I benefit reputationally, but not financially.
But but working through NFTs have built into the structure, right?
Yes. Yeah. And just to give you guys a real, I can give you a real life personal comparison to that. So the Nike Pigeon Dunk that I mentioned that was released in 2005, originally this is going to shock you. The wholesale price on a Dunk back then was $36. That was the wholesale price on a Dunk, $36. So, one just recently sold at Sotheby's for $90,000. Okay, so you see the delta between $36 to $90,000. You would think that the creator of that should have made a penny, so 1%.
Yeah,
nothing.
Exactly.
I got nothing. There's nothing there, right? I get nothing. Right. Whereas, so that shoe came out in 2005. So it's been, nearly 20 years now. It's been 18 years now, and that's a lot of time. And we've done a lot of projects with Nike, and there's been a lot of great momentum. Now, go to the other project that I did with Artifact, right, which came out less than 1 year ago. It's about, it's 11 months. We dropped the Artifact last May.
Yeah.
The amount of money that I've made on that Artifact shoe is more than the 20-year relationship that I've had with Nike.
Wow.
In 11 months. And that's perpetual. That's going to be for the rest of my life.
And that's specifically because of resale. Right, the trading of the NFTs and incredible.
Yep. Yeah. And now the only way Nike could solve that is by buying Artifact. So that's what they did. Nike bought Artifact. So now it'll be interesting to see what my new contract is through Nike Artifact instead of just Artifact. It's all good.
Okay, I'm going to ask the next question. Do you have any advice for a sneaker artist who's trying to launch their first NFT Genesis collection, especially how to navigate creating an artwork that doesn't infringe on the sneaker IP issues in the blockchain? On the blockchain, sorry.
They will sue you. Nike and Adidas have sued many people in the NFT space already. So I would say if you call yourself a sneaker designer, sneaker artist, this is a great opportunity for you to actually make your own shoe. I have a lot of friends like, JBF Customs and Shoe Surgeon and Mosh who have made their own shoe from scratch, right? Yeah. But the amount of investment that you have to do to make your own shoe is huge. But if you're good at what you do, you can make a 3D rendering of a shoe and sell that as NFT, make money on the sales of the NFT, and also use it as a proof case for whether somebody might support you or back you to be like, hey, I'm going to make your NFT shoe a reality, So I think it's actually an advantage to start with the NFT these days as a proof of concept.
I think that's a great answer. Okay, what do you think the influence of Japan's sneaker culture has been on American sneaker culture, specifically New York sneaker culture, streetwear and streetwear fashion industry, and how is it clearly seen today? That's a big question.
No, it's an easy answer. Japan has perennially been the great research and studiers of American culture. Japan obviously they create their own amazing culture as well. But what they're really good at is taking, like, for example, US denim, US military, US sneaker culture, hip hop culture, right? Taking it and breaking it down even more detailed than the inventors of it. Like, they know more about US military clothing than the US Army.
US military.
Yes, no, 100% facts. Yeah. Like I know a brand called Neighborhood what they're all about is motorcycle culture, like Harley Davidson motorcycle culture. They know more about that than Harley Davidson themselves, Yeah. And so when it comes to sneaker culture, sure, we invented sneakers and sneaker culture. We you go back to like the Puma suede, the Adidas shell toe, that all came from the Western world. But Japan really took it and uplifted it to almost like a mythological status and gave it this clout, and I think when the rest of the world sees what they do in terms of how they revere the product, it makes us look at ourselves and say, like, wow, we're not just making sporting goods out here, we're making like a cultural icon. Look at what they're doing in Tokyo. We should maybe take more care in how we now build product. I think it's kind of like a nice cycle that happens there, because I think if it wasn't for Japan, a lot of the shoe dogs in the industry that just like make shoes they'd just be making stuff for like Dick's Sporting Goods, Champs, and sporting supply stores. they wouldn't have realized that what they're really dealing with is like a fashion, art, cultural icon, right? And so now they treat it that way. And I think we have Japan to thank for that.
Yeah, Japanese collectors were so early into the game, right? Late 80s, early 90s, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Innovation and evolution has been a constant in your career, blending the metaverse, the physical world, updating the navigation pack with Jake Dancliffe's. How do you keep stoking your curiosity, and what keeps pushing you forward?
I hate to say this, but it's really easy. It's just because I love it so much, and I always want to go to like the bleeding edge of what's happening, you know. I also don't really care what people think, like, you know, like, so, you know, there was a lot of times where people thought reselling was whack, right? Oh, resellers suck. There was another moment where people thought like sneaker customizers were corny. I personally thought that what they were doing was cool. And then of course with NFTs, there's a lot of people that hate on NFTs and think that's like a snake oil, or like, you know, the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. But like, I don't care what people think. If I'm really into it, and if I'm passionate about it, I will investigate it. You know, listen, I've been in this for like in the game of being a sneakerhead for so long that I really trust my own intuition. And if I'm into it, then I'm going to explore it. And, you know, I'm not saying everything is dope, but like, I just kind of trust my own gut on this, you know, like, and yeah, that's all I can say. It's not really about like needing to like deliberately wake up and say like, how do I innovate? I just sort of am like, man, like, this is really cool. I like this, and I'm just going to explore it and dig deeper into it. So the moral of the story there is just like, figure out what you love to do and do what you love, because if you figure that out, then you don't have to motivate yourself. That comes automatically. Yeah.
And I apologize if anyone hears my dog barking like maniac in the background. Sorry. Okay. How does your creative process differ when creating in real life versus the metaverse?
Great question. My process is the same. So I use the same process. I'm very process driven and methodical. I like to sort of like build a base layer and then build slowly but surely on top of that. I want to have a solid foundation. What I've learned by working with people that are native to the metaverse, you know, like people who grew up like in fully digital worlds and in Web3 and developers and coders, is they work in a very different way that is very contrasting to me. And it's interesting to see us work together because I think we have a lot to learn from each other. People who grew up coding and in Web3, their mantra is usually break fast and learn faster. Just go, and it's gonna break and you could patch it later, right? Because in coding, you can launch a website, it can break and then you can patch it. You can't make 10,000 shoes, break it and then patch it later, you know? So that's why I have to be so process driven, because I don't want the outsole to fall apart. I don't want the shoelace to be too long. Like any little thing just ruins the shoe, you know? So I'm very, very methodical. And so we often have these sort of power struggles where it's like, Jeff, let's just launch and it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, we didn't do it this way yet. You know? But so it's cool because they're pushing me to move faster, and I'm pushing them to think more about the final product. And I think between the two of us, we have this great medium. But yeah, my process is still very much the same. I mean, like if you just, here, you happen to be at my desk here, but like here, these are some sketchbooks that I have really close by. But if you just look at look at these maniacal notes that I take about like it's just like, I'm just like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 2 is done, step 5, like I'm just like one at a time and knocking it out. And that's the way I like to do it. I don't like having things fall through the cracks, you know, and I still think that no matter how many great things I might have done, I'm always going to be judged on the most recent thing that I come out with, you know. So if last week's Croc that I did was a complete dud, I think that actually negates what I did 20 years ago with the Pigeon Dunk. So everything is part of the same lineage.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure because I feel like I'm pulling everything along every time. But I think that's the pressure that I put on myself to just create a great body of work, you know.
Okay, so it's almost 8 o'clock, which is when we're going to make a formal closure. I will take one more question. I'll ask one more question, but you very kindly offered to stay on after the close to continue to answer a few questions.
Sure.
So we will still continue to answer questions, but this will be the last official question before I do the closure.
Okay.
So with all the sneakers that you've designed, what is the farthest you've gone with creating a shoe with functional or bespoke features that improves biomechanics and human performance? And is this an area that you take interest in? I think I know the answer to this question.
Wow, can you give me a clue? I don't even know the answer.
When you were working at Nike, doing the
Considered?
I can't remember what?
Considered?
Yeah, consider.
Yeah, that was gonna be my answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, Nike Considered, I think, was the project that I worked on that sort of at the time really broke a lot of mold in terms of how shoes were made. The sustainability factor, circular loop. It was such an amazing project to be able to work with the team that did that. It was really like a renegade team, like just 5 people within the company were behind Nike Considered. If you follow Steve McDonald on Instagram, he talks a lot about it because he was one of the people that was on that. And then actually that went on to inform the recent work that I did with Allbirds, very sustainable work there. Yeah. And then also, just bringing Allbirds into like sort of the cultural sneakerhead world was a fun challenge. And we still continue to do it today. We still have a great partnership. And just talking about carbon footprint and making people realize like, what the impact that footwear has on the planet and how we have to be cognizant of that.
Yep, they are. I have a nice interview with Tim in the book.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and so one of the sections of the exhibition looks at sustainability because it's a huge part of what the future of footwear is. And Allbirds is a really interesting company doing interesting things.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to close it up now. But those of you who want to stay on, please stay on and we'll continue to answer questions. So formally, thank you so much, Jeff. You're, like I said, the best person to kick off the start of Future Now. I'm so grateful that you were able to take time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be able to do this. So
no
thank
problem.
you.
Anytime. Thank you. I'll see you at the museum.
Yeah. Okay, but don't go anywhere because we're going to keep answering questions. So for those of you who want to, as I'm sure all of you do, want to stay connected and see what Jeff is doing, you can see he's everywhere. You can do Twitter, Instagram, Just April TV, his webpage. He's literally, you're always posting interesting things, doing interesting things. So if you're not already following Jeff, do it.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, if you are enjoying the Salon series, we will continue to do Future Now focus talks for the next couple salons. The next one will be with Chris and Jade Dixon. This is a father-daughter duo, and Chris is a sneaker designer, and his daughter also teaches sneaker design to kids, and they are an amazing team. Chris is an amazing designer, and we're going to be doing this. We're going to live stream it during our community weekend, which is Sunday, May 29th. So you can, if you're here in Toronto and you want to come see the exhibition, you can come see the exhibition and watch this live stream. It's going to be fantastic. For those of you who want to come or want to come to the museum right now, the exhibitions that are up are all about shoes. If you want to make sure to see our Art and Innovation, our exhibition on circumpolar footwear, because this is closing shortly. This is the space that Future Now is going into. So your last chance to see that exhibition, all dolled up, looking at dolls, action figures, and teeny tiny footwear is a part of that. We've got this amazing Michael Jordan doll with his Air Jordans 1 through 14 on view. So come and see it. And I also asked the question in that exhibition, if dressing your avatar is a modern day form of doll play. And The Great Divide is an exhibition that looks at footwear in the 18th century, of an incredible period of change, and asks how did Western fashion support shifting power structures, specifically related to imperialism. So lots going on at the Battersea Museum. And if you want to support us, you can become a member. We have a new introductory level, $25 get to know us annual pass. So if you buy one now, you can come see Future Now over and over and over again for an entire year. And if you like this and want to keep up to date with what we're doing, hashtag BSM from home on all the social media platforms that we engage with. You can see here, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can also go to our webpage. You can get our newsletter, but it will make you apprised of everything connected to the exhibitions that we're doing. So join. And I'm done. That's all the information about the museum. So I don't think we lost a single person. So thank you, everybody.
They're sticking around for the after party.
Yeah, that's right. The after party starts now. I promise there are a million questions. I promise I will not keep you on forever. But let's do a few more. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You have put, oh wait, Jeff, have you put any tech into your products that is actively usable, not just decorative?
What was the word? Tech, you said?
Tech, like technology.
Oh, tech.
Yeah, like have you made smart shoes or whatever?
I don't think so. I don't think we put tech into shoes. Yeah, not yet. No. Not. I think there's other people for that. I'm not that person.
Okay.
You know, like what I mean, like tech in shoes is like there's pedometers, there's like I've seen like RFID chips that like sort of give you like the manufacturing like lineage of how the shoe was made. You can tap a shoe and it'll go to a website. There's light up shoes. There's self-lacing shoes.
Puma did one, the liquid cells that are all completely covered in QR codes. When you download the app and use the QR code, it makes the shoe look like it's on fire. Super
on your
cool.
phone.
On your phone, yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
cool,
in
cool.
augmented reality.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, actually the artifact shoe that we did, there's an augmented reality feature that you could just wear it digitally for the artifact shoe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Oh,
There's an AR feature on it, on Snapchat, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, this person says, hey, Jeff, I'm a big fan. Congratulations on your success. Just wondering what you think about opening a store in Toronto. Hey, I didn't write that.
It's on the to-do list. I actually don't have any physical stores right now, you know.
You are only in the metaverse.
Well, you know, when COVID hit, I was really glad that I got out of brick and mortar retail because I would have made my life much more stressful.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is actually, to be honest, I'll give you a little bit of alpha. There is a plan to make some physical spaces in the future. Obviously, we'll probably start in New York, but I've always been, you know, as I mentioned to you, sort of backstage. I have family in Markham and Scarborough, and I always go to Toronto. I love Toronto, so like that would be a top choice for me to do a space there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's a great idea.
We'll do a pop-up first at the Bata Shoe Museum.
Oh, all right. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the financial barrier to getting something to connect you to the metaverse will keep a lot of people out who are interested in the products, interested in the product? You know, I'm not reading this well, but it is an important question. Is the fact that you need to have technology, right? An automatic barrier for people? Is it a privilege?
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, yeah, you could argue that like you need internet connection, so that is a privilege. I understand that. Yeah. But if you look at what's happening in Ukraine, like when the system and the governments decide to shut everything down and rob people of privilege, like crypto is the only way that transactions are happening in Ukraine, you know? So like when there's a people that are disenfranchised, crypto is kind of the answer for that. And then I know personally a lot of people that had no reputation, no really independent financial lifestyle before NFTs. And NFTs, they weren't like famous before, like celebrities, and so they launched an NFT and they became like even more rich. They were like quote unquote nobodies, launched it. I mean, Ferocious is a great example of that. Like we mentioned Ferocious, like he's a kid that was living in Las Vegas that like had problems at home, had to run away from his family. And then now, you know, his last project just netted him $20 million, you know? So like there's a lot of rags to riches stories as well in the NFT space. But I do agree with partially what you're saying that, you know, in order to dabble in crypto, it's a wise idea to have some disposable income. Like I wouldn't take your last paycheck and convert it to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Like I always tell people that are like asking me, hey Jeff, how should I first get in? I say to them, how much would you be willing to lose in Vegas over a weekend? Take that amount of money, turn it into Ethereum, and then play with that, because you don't want to take an amount that like you can't pay your mortgage with the next month. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But that, even that, I understand takes a level of privilege to have disposable income. Right. So there's sort of two ways that you could look at it. But I do think it could be one of the most exciting things about the space is that it could be the great equalizer. Like you don't have to be a represented artist at a high-end gallery or museum to be seen. You know, it's really empowering. I mentioned my story about my sneaker finance from Nike versus Artifact, you know, and like, so like it's really a great power equalizer in terms of like leverage and finances. If you can get your foot in the first door.
Okay, this next question is, what's your go-to sneaker besides something you've designed?
Oh, you know, secret is I never wear shoes that I design, to be honest. I rarely wear shoes that I design. You know what it is?
You're not wearing the Crocs right now?
No, I'm not. No, what did I wear today? I'm trying to think what I wore today. Oh, I wore those, I did these New Balance customs recently.
I wore New Balance today too.
Yeah, so I wore New Balance today, but no, the bane about being a creative or a designer, especially in the sneaker space, where as I mentioned, it takes a year to two to get stuff developed, is like I'm designing a shoe right now that's going to come out in 2024, and I'm going to see 5 to 10 rounds of samples of this shoe, and I'm going to be looking at it for the next 2 years. So when the shoe finally comes out, I am sick of looking at it. Yeah, I'm sick of it. I don't want to look at it ever again. I'm happy that it's sold and it sells out and people love it, but I am tired of that shoe. And I always want to be wearing the shoe that's going to come out 2 years later. That's like the bane of my existence, you know? So yeah, so my go-to
gotta go to 3D printed shoes that you're printing right at home. That's what that is the next frontier. Right? That is the next thing.
That. Yep.
Yeah.
Walk into a store that no longer needs any inventory. You say I'm a size 10, I want this, that, come back in 30 minutes and it's here. That is the game changer for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you plan on releasing NFT shoes alongside physical production timelines?
Yep. That's the goal, is to link those two things together. There's a couple of, you know, obviously we know how to make shoes, we know how to make NFTs. There's still a little bit of technological hiccup in what's known as token gating a release. So that is making sure that people who actually own the NFT are allowed into this virtual store.
Yeah.
Once you get through that, then accepting ETH or like any sort of cryptocurrency as a form of payment is another sort of hurdle. And it's sort of all of those 4 things that I mentioned. If you could get all of those 4 things juggled in the air and like you get it smooth, then you're at a point where you can actually release shoes to people who own an NFT and they can accept ETH. They're all happening separately right now, but like me and my devs are hard at work at trying to sort of align those planets. We're probably within 6 months of doing it right now. And that's the beautiful thing about this. It's a lot of fun. If you can think of something, you can pretty much have the right people coding it. And I've got a great team in my Stapleverse doing this. So it's a lot of fun.
How do brands usually approach you these days? And what do you look for before deciding if you're going to do a collaboration?
Oddly enough, a lot of it happens in DMs. a lot of it happens in brands just direct message, and you know it starts like that nowadays. So the outreach is pretty easy. I think in terms of whether we decide to do it, I like to follow a formula that I use in my head. I'll give you a little like cheat sheet on how I make my decisions in life. It's the 3 F's. Okay. Number 1, is it going to be fun? Number 2, is it going to be good in my folio, aka portfolio? So is it going to add to the brand? As I mentioned, I have this legacy and I want to make sure it adds to that legacy. And then the 3rd is finances. right? So is it going to be good financially? And you want ideally all three to happen. You know, you want it to be fun, you want it to look good for your reputation and your legacy, and you want it to be financially fruitful. Obviously, there is different levers. Admittedly, I've done projects that have no money and are a lot of fun, and I've done projects that are a lot of money and not that fun. You know, so like, but as long as you sort of have that filter, then I think you're on a good path to make a decision on whether you should collaborate with the partner on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most important part of your process or part of any shoe that you design?
Storytelling. So I start with the story, you know. Again, I mentioned earlier that shoes are just, you know, pieces of fabric and rubber sewn together. And if you don't put a story behind it, then you're just making a commodity item, right? Yeah. And so the reason for being for any project for me is the story. And in fact, another little cheat code that I like to tell, that I'll tell you guys is when I embark on a project, in my first meeting with a partner, what I do is I want to envision what the Instagram post looks like when we release. I want to write the caption and already envision what the photo is going to look like. Because then when I'm writing that caption, that's going to happen 2 years from now. We can now go back to present time and figure out how to make that caption real. Yeah. So I start at the end and then work backwards. Interesting. Yep.
What software should a newbie start with to experiment with 3D digital sneaker design?
That I do not know. I'm fully old school. I just showed you my notebook. So I personally start in a notebook, pen and pencil. And I actually would suggest everyone to do that. I think you should get your ideas down on pen and paper or iPad and paper. But like, I don't, I used to tell graphic designers this, like, I don't think you should go straight into InDesign and Adobe Creative Suite. I think you should work out your ideas in something more tactical. Again, I'm probably just old in saying that, but I do think that there's something to be said about thinking things out through manual means than going straight into like all the ability that you have with a computer.
Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more questions and then I'll let you go.
Okay, this is like lightning round. I like it.
Yeah, okay. Any notable differences between US and Canadian sneaker culture and trends?
You guys probably need a lot more Gore-Tex than we do. Right? No, but the honest answer there is that
the season's shorter.
Yeah.
We only get to wear them certain months of the year.
You could only wear Crocs 1 month a year.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the honest answer there is for better or for worse, sneaker culture is completely globalized right now. So in the early days, like Tokyo, London, New York, LA, and Toronto really had different vibes and different styles. But now because of social media and the internet and like the speed of which way things move, like kids in Beijing dress exactly the same as kids in Soho now, literally down to the label. And that's the same for Tokyo, Toronto, New York, and LA. Like everyone just dresses kind of the same, that's why I say for better or for worse, because the good part is that if you're a small independent streetwear brand in Toronto, it doesn't matter where you're from, you can be global overnight. The problem is, where do you go now to find that like special sauce? Yeah, that individuality, you know, where do you go to get that? And maybe it's in the metaverse now, you know, maybe that's where you find it.
Okay, last question. Parallel to streetwear sneakers, there has been a classic menswear related sneaker renaissance with common projects all the way to John Loeb, James Weston, etc. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we're actually going to see a huge upswing in that. I think coming out of the last 2.5 years with COVID, we have been in PJs, sweatpants, and hoodies like for the entire last 2 years. I remember one of my guys in my company said, like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to wear hard pants ever again. Like, you know, like we've just been in sweats for so long, like my body can't even fit into like denim anymore. But I do think that what I'm hearing now from a lot of like trusted sources that I really sort of believe in terms of like their style and their vision is they're saying like they miss the click clack of hard bottom wood shoes. They miss tucking in their shirt and wearing a tie and a jacket, you know, they
until they do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. But I do think we're gonna see a resurgence in formal wear and in dress. You know, we're already seeing in a lot of streetwear brands, you know, they're adopting like penny loafers, and you're seeing Doc Martens have a resurgence and stuff. Like, you know, Cole Haan is doing some really interesting things as well. So I think there's kind of like this resurgence in dress as well. You know, I don't think that's going to make a dent in athletic or leisure, you know, sneakers. Like, it's not going to make a dent in that. But I do think you're going to see a lot more of your friends, probably on the more stylish side, start to adopt dress a bit more. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's time for people to clean up a bit.
Just 1 second, my computer would like to restart. I'm going to snooze that.
Not a good time,
actually, there's one last question.
Okay.
Is any plans on putting the staple stake down in other metaverses like Decentraland or Sandbox?
Yeah, I'm still, you know, the verdict is still out on that. You know, again, I'm not the earliest adopter of everything. I like to see if it makes sense for my brand. And we'll see. You know, it's an interesting thing, but I think there's also something a little bit like to be determined in terms of like what the future of that looks like with virtual land and all of this like virtual reality stuff. I still think some of the tech needs to catch up, like some of the hardware needs to catch up to the software in a sense. But you know, I'm not doing nothing. I'm building a
your own
Stapleverse. My thing is all about, I think what's a lot more exciting is like creative IP, you know, and I want to work with artists and designers that want to also own their IP. I'd love to actually be able to empower, after I learn all the pros and the cons and learning the ropes of Stapleverse, I'd love to help another creator build their universe as well, you know, so like that intrigues me more. And then if after I've got like half a dozen or a dozen people in a portfolio of like universes that we've built, if it makes sense to then put that in a Decentraland or a Sandbox, then that's cool. But we'll see how that goes.
Okay, well, on that note, you're free to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. This was awesome.
Thank
shout
you
out
so
to
much.
everyone for sticking around. We didn't lose that many viewers.
No, we didn't at all.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. But yeah, check me out on at Jeff Staple in most of the platforms, and you'll get to see everything that I'm up to and my randomness. I'm trying to actually post not as many shoes now. I've just been posting a lot of shoes, but I'll try to post the occasional weird like food pick or car pick or something like that, just to switch it up.
And if you want to see the what was it, reality-based shoes of the Meta Pigeon, you got to come to the museum on May 25th and come see Future Now. So all right, thanks so much.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.